It's a beautiful story, a story to stir the mind and move the heart and lead one to a better life. There are other stories, too, that stir the mind, move the heart, and lead people to better lives. These stories are known by different names: the Torah, the Gospels, the Quran, the Book of Mormon, the Vedas. They're different stories. Some of them led to great religions. Others, no religion at all, just a common code by which we could live our lives. These stories were written for different people in different places, under different circumstances. People who had different ideas and aspirations, and sometimes they needed to be guided by rules and even fear. It would be misleading for us to judge these stories based on the way we see our own world. Better to leave that to the scholars who study these stories to try to determine what they really mean or really meant to the people for whom they were written. Nor should we condemn these stories because we don't understand them, or because they're sometimes interpreted in manners that are wrong and even evil. These stories have a great deal in common, so much so that I honestly believe they may all have the same author. Or is the human mind just simply wired that way? And if so, who or what wired it? Or did it just evolve over the millennia just as the human mind evolved? I've read some of these stories, and believe me, they do stir the mind. I have friends who have read other stories who have told me that their stories stir their minds, move their hearts, and lead them to a better life. We can't read them all, nor should we. But if each one of us could just read one story and let it stir our minds, move our hearts, and lead us to a better life, we would be much better able to understand the people around us, the world we live in, and even ourselves. And I believe we would all live in a better world as a result of it. Let me tell you how I came to this conclusion. It was a few years ago. I was having coffee with Dr. Gerald Zahorchik, who was then the Secretary of Education for Pennsylvania. And he asked me to write a children's book about the world's religions. Seemed like a great idea. So of course I said, yeah, sure, why not? And like most challenges, when you first hear them and they think, yeah, great. Once you get into them, you find they're pretty tough. They're pretty tough. So where do I begin with this challenge? What religions? Well, I'll tell you, there's almost 2 billion Christians in the world. There's over 1 billion Muslims. There's nearly 1 billion Hindu. There's 500 million Buddhists. And beyond that, the number drops off rather significantly. So I just picked the top 4: Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism. And then I thought about Judaism. Although there are not as many followers of Judaism as there are in the 4 that I picked, Judaism is fundamental to the two of the largest of the world's religions, Christianity and Islam. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all trace their roots to a single prophet, Abraham. So, I decided to add Judaism, and now I had 5. And then I thought, Native American. That would be fun to do. Really fun. And I think the kids would enjoy it too. Well, it turns out that was a wise decision to make, because what I'm learning is that the indigenous voices of the world are just now beginning to be heard. Okay, I had my 6 religions. Now, I had to learn about them. I had to study them. I had to find out what other people had written about them. I had to become an expert. But as much as I tried, it became very apparent that no way I could ever gain enough knowledge to acquire the credibility I thought I needed to do this. And then it suddenly dawned on me, this is a children's book. I'm going to let the children tell their stories. They will be the guide. They will be the ones who lead. They will be the ones who inspire, not me. Then I had to decide where are these children? How do I find them? And do I really believe that I could find 10-year-old children who had the wisdom to know enough about their religion to tell me what it is they believed? As it turned out, there are. There are. The first was Lindsay Moon, a little gal from the northeast side of Atlanta, Georgia. And I met Lindsay in a gathering of over a dozen children. She was sitting next to me. And these children had been called together by a friend of mine who was the pastor of the church, who thought maybe that among his favorite kids, I might find the Christian child that I was looking for. But the meeting didn't go very well at all. As you can imagine, these 10-year-old kids each tried to outdo each other in impressing their favorite pastor. And they were not really letting it come from the heart, which is what I wanted to hear. Lindsay just sat there, never said a word, until the pastor introduced the subject of love. And then Lindsay said, just loud enough for me to hear, "You know, when my mom comes in to kiss me goodnight, I don't tell her I love her anymore. I tell her I Christ her." A short time later, I had the opportunity to ask Lindsay what she meant by that statement. And she simply said, "You know, we use the word love and abuse the word love in so many ways today. It really doesn't mean much. But when you think about how Christ loves us, that's special." I had found my Christian girl. The next one was Guzzle Aurora, who was a friend of Lindsay's, was in the same brownie troop as Lindsay. Guzzle is Hindu, a striking, brilliant young lady. What I said to Guzzle was this. The first thing I said to Guzzle was this. If you could tell children all over the world what it is you like about being Hindu, what would you tell them? And when she did, I said to her and to her parents, in order for me to retell your story, Guzzle, I have to pretend I'm you, a Hindu child. Now, I can pretend I'm a child. That's easy because I once was one. But I can't pretend I'm Hindu. Will you help me? And they did. Over many conversations in their home, visits to their Hindu temple, meals together, praying together as a family and as a community, until I finally reached the point where I could pretend I was a little Hindu child. And I rewrote Guzzle's story. And Guzzle loved it. And so did her parents. I was on a roll. It wasn't that I found these children or they found me. It was just that somehow we got together. And when I saw the right child, heard the right child, I just knew it. It just happened. There was Max, a Jewish boy from Naples, Florida. Ricky, an Arapaho lad from the Wind River Reservation in western Wyoming. Karma, a Muslim from Windber, Pennsylvania. The mosque in Windber, Pennsylvania. And there was Karma, the Buddhist boy from Woodstock, New York. With each one of these children and with their families, I was able to immerse myself into their life to the extent that I could pretend to be that child. And I rewrote their stories. Do you have any idea what a profound effect that had on me? I was able to see each one of those religions through the eyes of an innocent child. I was able to get past the many differences and realize that behind it all was the same common theme. We call it the Golden Rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Now, I'm not here this afternoon to promote religion over non-religion, or to aspire one religion over another. That's not my role. That's for each one of you to do for yourselves. But I do ask two things of you. First of all, believe. Believe in something. And secondly, don't judge others based on what you believe. Judge them based on how they live their lives.